Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a subject that, well, it feels huge, but honestly, it affects every single one of us.
Mhm.
Whether you're trying to run a massive corporation or, just get your friends to agree on where to go for dinner, we are talking about leadership.
It really is
Yeah.
the one variable that changes everything.
hmm
And we're not just looking at it in the abstract today. We are taking a hard look at what you might call the Bible of the genre.
Right.
We're diving into the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell.
I feel like this book has been on every bestseller list since, I don't know, forever. It came out in 1998, right? But for anyone who hasn't read it, who is John Maxwell? Is he just some
No,
academic?
far from it. And that's really why the book has such staying power. Maxwell has founded 4 different companies and spent over 30 years teaching this stuff. He's a practitioner. He's been in the trenches.
Okay, so he's lived it.
He's lived it. And his core idea is kind of a slap in the face to the notion that leaders are just born. He argues that leadership is the single determining factor in your effectiveness. Full stop.
So if you want to accomplish anything, you have to deal with these laws.
Literally anything.
Yeah.
And there are 21 of them, which is a lot to get through.
Yeah, that's a huge amount of information.
So our mission today is to just pull out the absolute essentials, the first 10 or so, that really explain why some people seem to skyrocket, while others, who might be just as talented, just hit a wall.
And that wall is actually the perfect place to start, isn't it?
It is. It brings us to the first and probably the most famous concept in the book, the law of the lid.
I've definitely heard this term thrown around, in business meetings, the law of the lid. But what does it actually mean? Like, how does it work?
It's a tool to visualize your potential. Think of it like a math equation. Let's say you are incredibly talented. You're a hard worker, you're smart, you've got drive. On a scale of 1 to 10, your success dedication is an 8.
Okay, so I'm an 8. That sounds pretty good.
It's very good.
Yeah.
But let's say your leadership ability, your ability to rally people, cast a vision, organize, is only a 1.
Ouch.
Maxwell argues that your total effectiveness is the result of multiplying those 2 numbers. So if your dedication is an 8, but your leadership is a 1, your effectiveness is capped at an 8.
That seems low.
It is. You're working your tail off, but you're capped. Your leadership is the lid on your potential. Now, here's the magic. You can't really increase your dedication much more. You're already at an 8. But if you learn leadership and you raise that lid from a 1 to, say, a 7,
So 8 times 7, 56.
56, you haven't increased your dedication by a single minute. But your effectiveness just jumped 600%. That's the law of the lid.
That makes so much sense of why some brilliant people just spin their wheels.
Yeah.
Is there a real-world example of this? Someone who had the talent but just hit that lid?
The book points to a story that I think will surprise you. The McDonald brothers.
Wait, the McDonald's burger empire? I would have thought they were the ultimate success story.
Well, yes and no. Dick and Maurice McDonald were geniuses in the kitchen. In the 1940s, their drive-in was incredibly popular. They invented the speedy service system.
Right, the 30-second burgers.
Exactly. No plates, no silverware, just pure efficiency. They were brilliant operators,
So extremely high talent.
off the charts.
hmm
But they had a low leadership lid. They tried to franchise the concept, and they failed miserably. They only sold it to 15 buyers, and only 10 of those actually opened.
So they couldn't scale.
They couldn't get other people to execute their vision. That's the key.
Yeah.
And then in comes Ray Kroc in 1954.
The guy who made McDonald's.
Right. And Kroc wasn't a kitchen genius like the brothers,
Mhm.
but his leadership lid was sky high. And here's the part people miss. He knew he couldn't do it all. So he mortgaged his home and took no salary for 8 years, just to hire people who had high lids themselves. He stacked the lids, he got people for finance, for operations. Because his leadership was high, he could attract and lead other leaders.
And the brothers just sold out. They hit their ceiling.
Exactly. Kroc built a global entity of 21,000 restaurants because he blew the lid off. It's like with Apple. Wozniak was a genius engineer, but Jobs was the leader. He was the high lid.
So if the lid is the limit, what exactly is leadership? Is it just being the manager, the boss?
This is where Maxwell gets a little controversial for some corporate types.
Mhm.
The second law is the law of influence. He just states it flatly.
Right.
Leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less.
Influence. I feel like that word can sound a bit, I don't know, like manipulation.
I get that,
Mhm.
but he defines it as the ability to move people. And the key is that it cannot be awarded or appointed. You can be given a title, like vice president,
Yeah.
but you can't be given influence. That has to be earned.
The outline mentions Princess Diana here, which seems like a big jump from fast food.
But it's actually the perfect illustration. Think about it. When she was married to Prince Charles, she had the title, Her Royal Highness. Then she got divorced. Lost the title, lost the position.
But she definitely didn't fade away.
No. Her influence exploded after that. She rallied the world to ban landmines, raised millions for AIDS research. Maxwell points out that she and Mother Teresa were voted the world's 2 most caring people.
Totally different backgrounds.
Identical influence. Meanwhile, the royal family, who kept all their titles, saw their own influence drop. It just proves that the position doesn't make the leader.
So that's one of the myths he talks about.
Yeah, the position myth. And the management myth is another big one. People think leading and managing are the same thing. They're not.
What's the difference?
Managers maintain direction. Leaders change it.
Or what about the pioneer myth? Just because you're first doesn't mean you're leading.
That's my favorite. Sir Edmund Hillary was first to summit Everest, but he wasn't the leader of the expedition. If you're out front and nobody's following you, you're just taking a walk.
Ah, I love that. And there's a funny story about Abraham Lincoln on this, isn't there?
Oh, it's great. Back in the Black Hawk War, Lincoln was elected captain. But he had 0 influence, 0 military knowledge. He actually dropped in rank because his men wouldn't follow him.
No way.
Yes. There's this story where he's marching his company and they come to a gate and he completely forgets the command to get them into a single file line to fit through.
So what did he do?
He just yells, "This company's dismissed for 2 minutes when it will fall in again on the other side of the gate."
That is hilarious. So even Lincoln had to learn influence.
Started as a captain, finished as a private.
Okay, so you have influence, you've raised your lid, but you still need to know where you're going. This brings us to the law of navigation.
Anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. This is all about preparation.
And the story here is a heavy one. The race to the South Pole.
It is. It's a brutal life and death lesson in leadership. 1911, you have Roald Amundsen leading the Norwegians and Robert Falcon Scott leading the British.
And the difference wasn't bravery, it was planning.
Amundsen was the ultimate navigator. He planned every detail. He used sled dogs because they thrive in the cold. He stocked supply depots way ahead of time. He faced reality.
And Scott?
Scott violated the law. He relied on optimism. He brought motorized sledges, which, big surprise, broke down. But his worst mistake, he brought ponies.
Ponies to Antarctica.
Ponies, which sweat when they work and then the sweat freezes on them. They all died, which meant his men had to haul these 200-pound sledges themselves.
Oh my God, that's a nightmare.
It was a death march. They got scurvy, frostbite. They eventually reached the pole, but the Norwegian flag was already there. Amundsen had beaten them by a month.
And they never made it back.
They died just 150 miles from their base camp. It's the starkest example you can imagine. Amundsen saw the whole trip before he left. Scott just hoped for the best.
That really drives home that leadership isn't just about charisma, it's about doing the homework.
Right. Optimism without realism is dangerous.
So you've got the vision, you've charted the course. How do you know if people are really listening? This brings us to a law with a funny name. The Law of E.F. Hutton.
Yeah, this reference might be a little lost on our younger listeners.
I was going to say, I think that's from an old commercial.
A famous one from the 70s and 80s. The setup was always a loud party, and someone would say, "Well, my broker is E.F. Hutton," and E.F. Hutton says,
And the whole room goes silent.
dead silent. Everyone leans in. The tagline was, "When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen." Maxwell uses this to show the difference between a positional leader and a real leader.
He tells a great story about himself failing at this.
He does. He's a young pastor, first job, walks into his first board meeting thinking, "I'm the leader here." But he quickly realizes there's this old farmer in the room named Claude.
And whenever an issue came up,
Maxwell would ask for input and crickets. Then Claude would clear his throat and say, "Well, I think we should fix the piano," and immediately everyone else would just agree.
so Claude was E.F. Hutton.
Exactly. Maxwell held the position, but Claude held the power.
So what's the play there? You can't just fight that.
You can't. You'll lose. So Maxwell started going out to Claude's farm, doing chores, building a relationship. He learned to run his ideas by Claude before the meeting.
That is such a practical tip. If you walk into a new group, don't look at who's talking.
Look at who everyone else looks at when a question is asked. That's your E.F. Hutton.
But to become that person, you have to be trusted, which is the law of solid ground.
Trust is the foundation. It's not a nice to have, it's everything. Maxwell says it's built on three things: character, competence, and connection.
And when you break it, it's over. The Vietnam War and Robert McNamara is the example here.
A tragic national example. McNamara and President Johnson. They just weren't honest. They minimized casualties. They spun the narrative that the war was going well when they knew it wasn't.
And the credibility gap opened up.
It did. When the public realized the words didn't match the reality, the solid ground just crumbled. Leadership collapsed. Johnson didn't run for re-election. You can't like people who don't trust you.
And you contrast that with a story like in the movie Glory. Colonel Robert Gould Shaw.
It's a perfect counterexample. A white officer leading the all-black 54th Massachusetts. At first there was zero trust, but Shaw built solid ground. He slept in the same tents, ate the same food.
And he led them from the front.
In the final assault, he didn't give orders from the rear. He drew his sword and charged first. He died with his men. That's solid ground.
And speaking of that, there's the law of connection. Leaders must touch a heart before they ask for a hand.
This is where the superlogical leaders can struggle. They lead with spreadsheets. But you have to move people emotionally before you can move them physically.
The comparison between Bob Dole and Elizabeth Dole in the '96 campaign was fascinating.
Right. Bob Dole was competent, a war hero, but he came across as so stern and distant. Then you'd see Elizabeth. She'd walk right into the audience, look people in the eye, talk to them like friends.
Touch their hearts.
And she had incredible influence because of it. It reminds me of that story about General Schwarzkopf at Christmas during the Gulf War. He spent the whole day in the mess halls.
That shaking hands.
4,700 hands. He didn't give a speech. He connected.
And when you connect like that, people respect you. Which is the next one, the law of respect.
This one is just. It's raw human nature. People naturally follow leaders stronger than themselves.
It's like a hierarchy.
Think of it as a scale again. If I'm a 6 as a leader, I'm not going to follow a 4. I'm just not. I'm looking for an 8 or a 10.
We want to follow people who can take us where we can't go alone. And the ultimate 10 in this chapter is Harriet Tubman.
An absolutely incredible woman. On paper, in the 1850s, she shouldn't have been a leader. She was tiny, uneducated, a former slave.
But they called her Moses.
She led over 300 people to freedom. Never lost a single person. And the reason people followed her, even big, strong men, was that her leadership strength was just off the charts.
There's that gritty detail in the book about her carrying a pistol.
She did. And not just for slave catchers. If an escaped slave got scared and wanted to turn back, which would endanger everyone, she'd put the pistol to their head and say, "You'll be free or die."
That is intense.
It is. But that is a level of strength that commands absolute respect. It's not about being nice. It's about being effective.
Okay, let's shift to how leaders think. The law of intuition.
This one is maybe the hardest to teach. Maxwell says leaders evaluate everything with a leadership bias. They just see things others don't.
The Steve Jobs story when he came back to Apple really explains this. They were bleeding cash.
On the verge of bankruptcy. And Jobs comes back and does something that just baffled everyone. He announced a partnership with Microsoft.
Their biggest rival. I've seen the video of that. The crowd actually booed him.
They did. Because they were thinking emotionally. They were playing checkers. Jobs was playing chess.
Yeah.
His intuition told him that to save Apple, he needed cash, and he needed to stop the legal battles so he could build. He took $150 million from Bill Gates.
He saw the bigger picture.
Exactly. He read the situation with a leadership bias. He knew winning wasn't about beating Microsoft in that moment. It was about surviving to build the iPhone.
That intuition helps you succeed, but who helps you get there? This is the law of magnetism. Who you are is who you attract.
This is the look in the mirror law. We all want our team to be honest, hardworking, creative, but Maxwell says you don't attract who you want, you attract who you are.
So if you're disorganized, you attract disorganized people.
Precisely. If you're a 7 in leadership, you aren't going to attract a 9. The line will look at you and think, "I can't learn anything here," and they'll leave.
The Dallas Cowboys example in the book is a classic.
It's a perfect contrast. Under Coach Tom Landry, they were America's team. Disciplined, clean cut. Because Landry was disciplined and clean cut.
Then Jerry Jones takes over.
And Jones is a maverick. Flashy, impulsive. And what kind of team did he attract in the 90s? Incredibly talented, but suddenly plagued with scandals and chaos. The team took on the personality of the leader.
So if you look at your team and don't like what you see, the problem might be you.
That's the hard truth of it.
Wow. We've covered a lot of ground, but I want to end on the law that sort of wraps this all up. Because all of this, raising your lid, navigating, building trust, It sounds like a lot of work.
It is, and that is the law of process. Leadership develops daily, not in a day.
And we live in a microwave society. We want it now.
But leadership is a crock pot. It's about compounding. Maxwell tells the story of Ann Scheiber.
The IRS auditor, right?
Yep. Quiet woman, worked for the IRS, never earned a huge salary. She retired in 1944. But when she died at the 101, she left an estate worth $22 million.
Oh.
Compounding. She saved a little bit every month, invested it, and just let it grow for 50 years. Leadership is the exact same thing. You don't go to one seminar and become a leader tomorrow.
It adds up over time.
It adds up. The book uses Teddy Roosevelt as the ultimate example. We think of this big, energetic Rough Rider. But he started as a sickly, asthmatic kid. His dad told him, "You have the mind, but not the body."
So he built himself.
Every single day. In the gym, hiking, boxing. He constructed the leader he became through daily process.
So the takeaway is, don't get discouraged.
Right. If you work on your lid, your navigation, your connection every single day, the compounding effect will take over.
That's a really hopeful place to land. We've covered, 10 or 11 laws here. Before we sign off, what's the one challenge you want to leave our listeners with?
I'm going to go back to the law of magnetism. It's the most actionable test you can do right now.
Let's hear it.
Take a hard look at the people currently following you. Your employees, your team, even your kids. They are a mirror. If you see frustration or a lack of discipline or negativity in them, just stop trying to fix them for a second and ask yourself, what change do I need to make in myself to attract what I actually want?
That is a tough question, but I think that's where the growth starts. Thank you for walking us through this.
My pleasure.
And thank you all for listening. Go check your lids, chart your course, and we'll catch you in the next deep dive.